Every single day, we toss things in the trash without even thinking about it. But that simple act, it kicks off this incredibly complex and honestly pretty hazardous journey. We're going to dive into the hidden world that manages what we leave behind and see what it really takes to protect the people who handle it all.
It's a massive, totally essential industry that's working 24/7, but it's also one of the most dangerous out there. So, in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on the critical health and safety protocols that protect the people who manage our waste day in and day out.
Okay, so to really get a grip on the risks, we've got to follow the trash, right? Let's trace its journey from the second it leaves our hands.
Think about it. That plastic bottle, the old newspaper, that busted phone, they all get swept into this massive system. They go from our bin to a collection truck to a sorting facility and way beyond. And here's the thing you've got to remember. A real person is handling it at every single step of the way.
So, yeah, as you can probably guess, this whole journey is just packed with potential dangers. Let's really break down what these workers are up against.
Now, I think this is a great way to think about it. The risks basically fall into two big buckets. On one side, you have the visible hazards, the stuff that can happen in a split second, the things we might expect. And on the other, you've got these invisible threats, the sneaky stuff that can cause serious long-term harm.
All right, let's tackle those invisible threats first. You've got things called bioaerosols, basically tiny invisible clouds of bacteria and mold from all that decaying stuff. Workers can breathe that in, and it's terrible for their lungs. Then there's the constant risk of getting an infection from sharp objects or contaminated waste. They might even unknowingly handle dangerous materials like asbestos from old construction debris. And over the years, all that repetitive listing and sorting leads to musculoskeletal disorders. We're talking crippling pain that just doesn't go away. And all the while, the constant deafening roar of machinery can cause permanent hearing loss.
And then you've got the dangers you can see, the stuff that can happen in a flash. Slipping on a wet floor. In one of these places, that's not just a whoops moment. It can be a really serious injury when you're surrounded by heavy equipment. The machinery that sorts and crushes waste operates with just, unforgiving force. And right in the middle of all that, you've got trucks and forklifts moving around constantly. On top of all that is the sheer physical strain of heavy lifting all day, every day. The big takeaway here is that danger is coming from every angle, both seen and unseen.
Okay, so with all these risks, you have to wonder, right? How on earth does the industry keep its workers safe? Well, it all comes down to a super rigorous system of protocols. Let's see how it actually works.
And this is key. Safety isn't just some checklist they do at the end. Nope, it's built right into every single stage of the waste journey. We can really break it down into these three main phases: collection, sorting, and then processing. And each one has its own unique set of dangers and, of course, its own specific safety solutions.
So let's start at the beginning with collection. This is really the front line. You've got specific rules depending on where the trash is coming from. Is it a business, a public amenity site where you drop off your own stuff, a specialized recycling center? Each one has its own playbook. And there's extra, super cautious guidance for handling things like hazardous waste from a hired skip, because you just never know for sure what you're dealing with.
All right, so once all that waste gets to a facility, a whole different set of safety rules kicks in. And this really shows you how complex it is. In these huge materials recovery facilities, every single piece of machinery has to have proper guards on it to prevent horrible accidents. For folks working on the hand sorting lines, there are strict procedures to keep them safe. And then you have special rules for the unique dangers that come with scrap metal, old electronics, and even for huge composting operations.
And that is a fantastic question. I mean, a system this huge and this detailed doesn't just spring up out of thin air, right? It needs some kind of framework, a guiding hand that sets the standard for everybody.
And that's what brings us to the safety framework, the whole combination of official guidance and actual law that holds this entire industry together.
So, in the UK, at the very heart of this framework, you have an organization called the Wish Forum. You can kind of think of them as the safety guardians for the whole industry. They bring together all the experts, from companies, from unions, from regulators, to figure out the best ways to do things, and then share that guidance so everyone is on the same page.
And it's not just friendly advice either. This stuff is backed by law. Employers are legally on the hook. They have to provide health and safety training for everyone. They have to make sure that anyone operating a big piece of machinery is properly trained and certified. Access to first aid, that's an absolute must, non-negotiable. And maybe most importantly, they have to be actively managing and watching their operations all the time to make sure these safety rules are actually being followed.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. You've got the risk awareness, the specific protocols for each stage, these guiding groups, and the legal duties. What does it all really mean when you put it together?
What it adds up to is this really intricate, multi-layered safety net. It's this incredible system that's working totally silently in the background of all of our lives. It is not just luck that keeps these essential workers safe. It's a deliberate, carefully designed framework of rules, non-stop training, and constant oversight.
And when you strip it all away, the whole point of this entire system, every rule, every training session, it all boils down to one simple, incredibly powerful mission: to make sure every single worker goes home safe at the end of their shift. So you see, this entire system is designed to manage the risks that we create with the stuff we throw away. It's there to protect the workers. But that leaves us with one last and maybe the most important question to think about. What about us? How can the choices we make about what we buy and how we throw it away help make their essential job just that little bit safer?